From LEX 18, your official UK sports station for Big Blue Nation, this is BBN Tonight. Presented by Central Bank, the official bank of UK Athletics.
Welcome to BBN Tonight. I'm Keith Farmer.
And I'm Eli Gaines. Tonight we'll look ahead to the Kentucky-Tennessee men's basketball game and back at a very tough loss for the women's team last night.
And later we have interviews with men's assistant coach Joel Justice and former Wildcat Jack Goose Givens of the UK Sports Network. Now, the Kentucky men are hoping to rebound into the win column when they host the 11th ranked Tennessee Volunteers at Rupp Arena this weekend. That's tonight's Big Blue story presented by Baptist Health. Cats coming off that heartbreaking loss against Missouri Wednesday, where a last-minute rally left the Cats falling just 5 points short against the Tigers.
We are doing everything. You know, it's a coaching staff's suggestion. It's analytics. It's everything. It's a feel with how the game's going. It's kind of like we talked about earlier. Like all the questions been asked, sometimes not having a per se go-to player that comes into effect, and the shooting comes into effect, and the offense defense. So, you know, with us, we're just trying anything and trying to find whatever's working.
That's good. Jackson then deflects it away from
Eli, I think it's tough because you don't know. I mean, how do you prepare for a final 4 minutes? I get it if it's a
I don't know.
single last play, but, you know, all these games within the last 4 minutes are going to be different. It just comes down to defense. Make a stop, go score on the other end.
Yep, and just can't string it together this year. It's just as simple as that. And it was funny, I was talking to my grandpa before this game because he's a Missouri fan.
Yeah.
And I told him, I was like, Poppy, don't be surprised if this game goes down to the final 10 minutes. But then they start to scave off. I'm talking about Kentucky in the final minutes of this game. Sure enough, he texts me. He's like, you're right. Didn't expect it coming. He was nervous the whole time. But, of course, Kentucky just let it slip away from him. Well, one of the bright spots in this longtime UK-Tennessee rivalry is the historic game from former Cat Jody Meeks. In January of 2019, he put up a 50-burger, 54 points down in Knoxville. We caught up with him earlier today.
When I say Tennessee, I mean, we know what we think of for you, but does that bring up some memories and just some incredible feelings?
It does, man. It's crazy. I was just talking to some of my family members, my parents and sisters, about what happened. I think it's been 12 years now, so time flies, obviously, but it's just like one of those magical feelings that I really didn't know what to expect or what to feel after that game, just because I knew I had a big game. I didn't know it would be that big as far as nationwide and Kentucky basketball history. I didn't even know what the record was at the time. So that night, driving back home on the team bus, and then when I woke up the next morning, I'm like, man, my life has changed forever. The
really cool thing is that your dad and your uncle were there. I mean, you not only had to talk about it, but I remember seeing a mob around. I think it was your dad getting interviewed. I mean, you know, what was that like, too?
Yeah. It's funny because my dad wasn't even going to come. It was on a weekday. He had to work the next morning. And, you know, my uncle was like, come on, man, I'll drive up with you. And my mom was like, yeah, y'all go ahead. You know, she doesn't really like to travel as much, especially on the weekdays, because I had two younger sisters at the time. They were in middle school and high school. So he wasn't going to come. And then he told me at the last minute he was going to drive up, which is only about 2.5 hours. And I'm glad he did. I'm glad they were there. I was able to share that moment with them. And I saw him get interviewed like he had just scored 54 points. So it was a good time, a good moment for us to share together.
Good stuff. You can see the full interview with Jody on tomorrow's edition of BBN Game Day, which airs at 9 a.m. right here on LEX 18. It will also be available on bbntonight.com.
All right, staying with basketball, Kentucky freshman Isaiah Jackson is now the first Cat projected to be selected in the ESPN's latest mock draft. Jackson moves up 10 spots to number 15 from the worldwide leaders' last rankings in November. B.J. Boston drops to number 26, and Terrence Clark falls to the second round.
ESPN also likes incoming big man Oscar Tshiebwe. They've ranked the former West Virginia star as the top college transfer in college basketball. Looks good, rocking number 34 with that uniform, as the UK social media account shared those pictures of him.
All right, turning to the Kentucky women, the Cats find themselves on the bad end of an upset to Ole Miss, which ended a 6-game losing streak for the Rebels. Last night on the road, 10th-ranked UK fell behind by 13 points at halftime, shooting 32%. Ryan Howard struggled but finished with 26 points on 26 shots and 7 rebounds. Ole Miss ultimately rolled to a 72-60 victory. The women now get a week-long break in action. Next up is Tennessee at Rupp Arena, a big one that they need to get there.
Yeah, can't lose games like that, especially at this point in the year. You got to be able to put those teams that aren't very good away. All right, a couple of headlines for UK football. Raphael Horton has returned to the program as an assistant strength and conditioning coach after filling that role for West Virginia the last 2 seasons. Meanwhile, a Senior Bowl spokesman says former UK center Drake Jackson played most of last Saturday's game with a separated shoulder, saying that he didn't want to let his team down. No surprise there. Big tough guy, Drake Jackson.
But I mean, the mindset there. I'd understand it if it was Kentucky, but these were guys who were around. He was around for a few days, and you didn't want to let that team down. You
Amazing.
Kidding me.
Good stuff.
All right, coming up next on BBN Tonight, I'll go one-on-one with Joel Justice.
The UK basketball assistant coach will talk about his background in the sport and the Cats vs. Vols game when we return.